Hi, this is John Ryan, and joining me is Brase, uh, candidate for the open board of directors seat for USA Team Handball. Chris, how you doing this morning?
Good, John. How are you?
Doing all right. Hey, let's get right to it. Um, Tell me a little bit about your handball related background.
My background actually kind of extends before I even came to be. My family has been in handball. I'm fourth generation player. Only one here in the United States. The rest of them are still over in Germany. But so I was aware of handball for, most of my life. Didn't really get into it until kind of the other sports that I was involved in the US kind of were no longer in my life, which were baseball and basketball primarily growing up. But in 2008, I was invited to the 100-year festival for the club in the town where my family is from, where my grandfather's from. My cousins took me to my first training. It was a great experience. We had went to the tournament that after thereafter for the 100-year festival for the Turn Verein Kixel. And from there, I came back, was living in Philadelphia, going to school at the time, and we tried to found and did found the team in Philadelphia for a while, and we're playing with them. After I graduated college, I was given a fellowship by the U.S. government to live and study in Germany. Took advantage of that to join a couple teams. So I played in Magdeburg, not with the SC Magdeburg, although we did play against them in a charity game. I played with FSV, was the name of the team, Magdeburg. And I also got to train with the Turnverein Kixel that I had originally learned how to play from, who are a third division Bundesliga team in Bavaria. Um, After that, came back, started my career, was back with the Philly team, and also was lucky enough to have a friendship with Brian Cothorn, who welcomed us from Philly, who didn't really have a very competitive team at that point, to play with DC. So was playing at a very relatively high level here with DC, and also trying to build the Philly team out for several years. Eventually, my career took me to New York City in 2014, where of course I joined the New York City team, played for their mostly the second and third team for them, won a national championship in the Open Division. As my, I guess, physical limitations started to become apparent, I got into coaching. And so for the last, I'd say at least 6 or 7 years, I've been coaching with the New York City team, won a handful of medals with the women's team, the men's second team, and the men's first team as well. And that's where we are. Most recently was the coach of the team that won the Samala Cup in Denver a couple weeks ago.
Well, awesome. So I guess you talked a little bit about your German heritage. I have a great grandfather who came from Germany, but it sounds like your links to Germany are much tighter. I mean, like, did you speak German in your household, or how'd that
Uh,
go?
Growing up, not really. My parents, because they were the sons of immigrants or son and daughter of immigrants after the Second World War, they were not really encouraged to speak German in the household. So we didn't really speak German in the household. It became something important in my life where I did learn German. It was one of the reasons why I went to go live there, is I wanted to be able to speak the language, and I wanted to connect with my roots and where my family's from and my cousins there. And several of my cousins, I'm very close with them. The three that originally brought me to handball, I still talk to on a regular basis. One of them still coaches. A number of them are still involved in the administration of handball with our like the club that we're involved in, which is Turnverein Kixel. A number of them have played for the team, coached with the team. We talk handball a lot in the family, and we do it in German, we do it in English, we do it kind of however works.
Fair enough. Um, Switching gears, tell me a little bit about your non-related handball background and how it might facilitate you being a good board member.
Well, professionally, we talked a little bit about before we started recording. Professionally, I'm a video producer and editor. I've worked my entire career in sports, and that's in a lot of different levels. When I came back from Germany, I started with an entity that few might know about called the Cronum League, which was a startup sport. So I really got to see a lot about how to develop a sport and be involved in something like that. Eventually, moved my career forward, especially in New York, where I've worked with a lot of professional leagues. My first job in New York was with Major League Baseball. I worked for several years of Major League Soccer and several of those clubs as well. Now I'm on this call. I'm sitting in the New York Jets facility here in New Jersey. I do a show for them and some other things for them. And I mean, pretty much any sport, any level, collegiate, international, I've had my hands in it through my career. And I think a lot of that perspective, all those other sports that I've been involved with and seeing what works, what doesn't work, I think that that definitely would help me and help me bring some ideas to the board. And, just also seeing what successful sports organizations do and how they operate, I think is important to have that perspective of what other sports do and bring it to handball.
Well, I think this is a good transition. Why do you want to be a board member?
I see the board member as kind of an extension of kind of the mission that I've been on since I kind of transitioned out of playing. The reason I became a coach is because I saw an opportunity to help the next generation of players and teach them the lessons that I learned and give them some of the experiences that I had in my career. And I think being on the board and being a representative for the membership of USA Team Handball in this regard is sort of an extension of that and doing it on a grander scale where I can affect the lives and the handball lives, especially of more people and be a positive influence in the same way that I've been with the New York City Team Handball Club.
Right. Now I'm going to talk about a couple issues that I sent out to you ahead of time. Get your thoughts on those. Um, what are your thoughts regarding what happened with the board of directors this past summer and how
I,
it might inform your role on the board and the decisions the board makes?
I mean, in terms of the events, my biggest opinion on them is that they've happened, and there's not really anything that can be done to, it doesn't seem at least, to make them not happen again. We are in the situation that we are, and the decisions that were made. I think that in terms of an opinion on what happened, you've already seen bigger people than me make their opinion on that, and that the IHF has and the Forum Club Handball and even the USOPC have all kind of at least raised some questions as to what occurred. And I mean, for me, I look at the board as it stands right now, and I see a blank slate. I see a lot of new board members, and it's an opportunity to change the way things have been going and move things in a positive light. Um, and, for those people who, engineered everything that happened over the summer, it's for me, I just look at it as, okay, you did what you did and what's next? What was your reasoning for doing this? What are you going to do to move this sport forward? And I'm going to look to see what it is that they do, and I'll react accordingly if I'm in the board.
Fair enough. Um, what are your thoughts regarding what historically has been a big resource decision for the board? How much resources should be applied towards national teams and how much should be applied towards development?
I mean, when I look at that issue, I don't necessarily see those two things as at odds with each other as much as I think a lot of people do, because I think the two of them benefit one another. I think if you look at the state of handball in this country, to look at it as it stands and think that we're in a position to be a consistent competitive, for medals, which is obviously the goal, consistently competitive at that level, I think, you're kidding yourself a little bit. I think that development is absolutely essential and it's a requirement at this point. We are in a country where when you say handball, people think about batting a racquetball against a wall more than what we do. And that in itself is a problem. Nevertheless, the amount of players and everything benefits. What's the overall goal of development? More players playing at a younger age, playing at a higher level of competition, and learning the game from at a more deep level. That's only going to benefit a national team. But on the other hand, we have a great opportunity in 2028 where the national team is going to be the face of what we're doing in this sport. And I think that the success of that and the ability of our board and of our governing body and everybody really to parlay that into something that is meaningful in the way of development. Because if you look at the Olympics, obviously our team hasn't been there since 96, but every 4 years, the USA as a whole discovers handball for the first time. But the reason, and that's a little bit tongue in cheek, but what it tells me as well is that USA Handball has not done a great job of parlaying that discovery into meaningful development. And I think that that's an absolute essential thing that we need to be prepared for coming out of 2028, regardless of what the results of our national team is in that tournament.
Yeah. Well, just to uh, follow on to that a little bit, is I certainly see a need for both, national teams and development type efforts, and I do see them supporting each other. That said, with limited resources, um, sometimes you have to make some tough decisions. Um, I'd like to do everything. I like for us to do a lot of things. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, I guess where do you kind of put the priority? I guess.
I mean, my priority, I believe, is on development because I don't think a national team can sustain itself if you don't have an infrastructure that gives it what it needs to succeed, right? I think about we have a player on our team who's also involved in fencing, and he tells me that the number of registered fencers in the United States is, in the five figures, say 10, 15,000 fencers, right? That's quite a bit more than we even have in USA Handball. And that gives you a little bit, $35 to register. That gives you a lot more money to make these decisions with when you have more, people, when you have more of an influx. And it also gives you more people that can potentially be at a national team level. So I think development is the absolute crucial thing to build a national team. But also, as you said, and so that's what would be my priority. But also, a national team is necessary in that it gives people aspirations. When I started playing at 20, I had a dream of playing for the national team. Never happened, but that was something that I aspired to, something that I worked for. We have guys who I know in our team who have that same aspiration, and it's a part of the reason that they play. So the development, I think, is my priority and something that I see as absolutely essential. But the national team also has its place when as well.
Yeah. Fair enough. Now I'm just going to kind of open the floor. If you've got any particular issue that you want to highlight, emphasize, discuss a little bit, um, the floor is yours, and then we can have a discussion as long or as short as you would like.
I mean, I think for me, I'm straightforward and I'm honest, and you see, I don't need to talk about the things that have gone on with USA Handball over the last couple of years. I just look to the future, and what I want to do is make decisions and be involved in moving this thing towards the right way and developing it and growing it and making it the sport. I always say I've had a lot of great experiences. Some of my best friends, my connection with my family, all of that has a lot to do with handball. And I want to make it so that as many people can get what they want out of the sport because it's a great sport. It's one of the best things I've ever gotten myself involved with, and I think there's an opportunity to make more people, bring more people to that same level, and I want to be a part of making that happen.
All right. Well, fair enough. If that's it, we'll go ahead and
I mean, unless
uh,
you got anything else, I'm
no,
always
I
open to any questions,
I
and
could talk about handball 24/7.
as can I, and I have, and again, as this position is a position where I would be the voice of the membership, more or less, right? That's my job
Right.
is to amplify the needs of the membership, and that's my goal because we all have we have very different needs. Everybody plays this game for a different reason, whether it is to be a part of a national team, and in this cycle, to be an Olympian, which is a great undertaking, right? Or if it's just somebody who is here on a temporary or permanent visa and wants to continue playing something they've played their whole life, or if it's an American player who wants to try something new and maybe isn't at the level of a national team player. I think everybody's reasons are valid and everybody should be able to get what they want out of this sport as much as possible. And I feel like that's the goal of the national governing body and that's the goal of the board of directors. And that's the type of stuff that I'm interested in. And frankly, all the other stuff that has happened and is gets involved with, you know, that's not my concern. My concern is the people that play this game and the game itself.
Hey, fair enough. I think I've gotten and it's been a good chance for me to know you a little bit, get a feel for where you stand on things, and Well, we'll see what happens with the election.
Yeah, I
Um,
hope for the best, right?
all right. For Chris Brase, I'm John Ryan, and thanks for listening.